for, a very, very busy time for our conference attendees, and especially our delegates and alternates. So we will then be letting you know about those dates, and we will be doing those virtual as well. Also, our committees, we will be doing virtually as well. And Amy, at any point you can speak in here. But we are very excited about that as well. We are looking at different process for credentials. And that will entail that you do not have to bring your membership card to the credentials desk. And again, we will get this information out to you, but we have that access right on site to verify membership. So you don't have to have that membership card with you any longer. And Amy and I both feel this would be a great benefit for speeding along processes that are in place as well. Since we will only be having that virtual orientation, we will be available on site, designated time and place for any of the delegates and alternates or any of the committees to come and join us and ask for any questions. Amy, is there something that you maybe can go ahead and add that we've been discussing?
No, I think you covered it. We're just, I think both of us just really want to try to see how we can change things a little bit as things change over the years. And I think we learn every year. So, you know, trying to make some of those things virtual, I think has worked well in the past. So that will help to free up some time for those that are serving to be able to maybe get some other education opportunities they might have missed. So, so we thought that was a good thing to try to continue. So.
Yeah, so just you'll be receiving updates on that. Also, the brochure that's on the website, there will be updated information in there. It currently still has that there is orientation on site at certain times, but that will be updated as well. And you will be also notified from us. If anyone that is attending conference that's not delegate or alternate, then I would like to, if we could get anyone that is not going to be serving to send us information if you're willing to volunteer. We have lots of positions for volunteer and would love to have representation from many of the various states. Thank you.
Okay. President Houston, immediate past president, anything additional?
No, and I did not say I was immediate past president. It's bittersweet knowing that this will be going off in October. I've been on this board for 12 years. Like I said, over that time, I have seen major changes, some good and some not so good, but it's been awesome to still see this organization continue to grow and move forward.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer Virginia Thomas, anything additional?
No, ma'am, I have nothing at this time.
Okay. And so now we're going to go to the star of the show. Don Balasa, our CEO and legal counsel, is going to give us some AAMA updates and tips and tricks, right, Don?
Absolutely, Deborah. I wouldn't consider myself the star of the show, but I will say it's great to see all of my friends and colleagues from throughout the United States. I'd like to talk about some very important legislative developments and other developments. If you have a question, if you could just write it into the chat, I can respond immediately. And since we're coming near the end of the program, if you have a question you'd like to verbalize, feel free to raise your hand. And Deborah, if you'd be kind enough to recognize someone that wants the floor, that would be much appreciated. All right, the big news is that we have had two very major legislative victories, one in the state of Connecticut and the other in the state of South Carolina. You may know that in Connecticut for over 30 years, medical assistants have not had the authority to be delegated and to perform any administration of medication. We had tried probably 7 times in those over 30 years to get legislation enacted that would change that. We were not successful, and at times there was great disappointment. I myself testified in person at the Connecticut legislative committees and in other situations that it seemed to be very difficult to get a bill that it would be acceptable and would be enacted into law. We did hire, or the Connecticut Society hired a lobbyist about 6 years ago who has been helping considerably in this area. So finally, we were able to get a bill together that was acceptable to enough legislators so that they could vote in favor of it. And we had almost unanimous votes in both houses of the Connecticut legislature, and the bill was signed by the governor. My next public affairs article in the CMA Today, the July-August issue, is going to discuss this legislation. Also, I'll be talking about another significant victory in the South Carolina legislature. In the last 5 or 6 years, there has been some interpretation of the South Carolina law that would forbid medical assistants from delegating the administration of injections by nurse practitioners and physician assistants. So we had quite an anomaly in the South Carolina law. There was no question about the physician's authority to delegate the administration of injections to medical assistants, but a lot of controversy over whether advanced practice registered nurses, primarily nurse practitioners, and PAs did have the legal authority in the statutes and in the regulations of their respective boards to delegate to medical assistants the administration of injections. A bill was put together that would rectify that, and we had strong support from the South Carolina Medical Society, as well as some other groups. And the South Carolina Society of Medical Assistants did a great job in getting together different people who would be able to speak to this and also contact legislators. I testified along with the South Carolina Society, Sandra Williams, representative, who's also a trustee, and we had a very favorable response, just as kind of a lesson on how the legislative process works. The bill that was first considered had a lot of mistakes in it, just factual mistakes. For example, instead of referring to KHEP, it referred to its predecessor organization, CAHIA. So that obviously is 20 years behind the times. But we were able to get that corrected, and the legislators were very amenable to making those corrections. In fact, they appreciated that, because if you have wrong information that gets into a statute, then it increases the likelihood that in the future, someone could reopen the statute just to correct an error. And in that process, there can be some change in the substantive provisions of the statute. So a fundamental rule is that you should try as best as you can to get the language in the legislation and eventually in the statute to be correct. And that's what we were able to do in South Carolina. So that bill did pass both houses of the legislature and was signed into law by the governor. And I think this will put to rest any idea that medical assistants in South Carolina were limited when they work under nurse practitioners or physician assistants. Another very important feature of both of these bills that I address in my upcoming article is that both of these bills make a distinction between the legal scope of practice of medical assistants who are formally educated in medical assisting and have a medical assisting credential, and all other medical assistants. I think this is the key to getting recognition of the medical assisting profession. to establish in law the fact that those medical assistants who are educated and credentialed are different from those who don't have education and credentialing. So we are going to make a big deal of this, as we should. Think of the Connecticut medical assistants who for all these decades were not able to practice the profession up to their knowledge and their abilities because of the law in that state. I think these laws also will provide a good precedent for other states. For example, New York is the other state in which the right to practice of medical assistants has been severely restricted for the last 30 years. Because New York and Connecticut are contiguous states, I think we can build upon the victory in Connecticut and finally make some progress in the New York realm in terms of scope for practice. Interestingly, in New York State, a bill was drafted by an organization known as the Community Healthcare Association of New York. That's the Community Healthcare Association of New York. They realized the value of medical assistance, and out of the blue, they contacted us and said, we'd like you to help us with this legislation. So the New York State Society of Medical Assistants has some very experienced legislative leaders, and now we're in an alliance with this Community Healthcare Association to see whether we can get this bill or some variation of it introduced into the New York legislature. So maybe with the Connecticut victory and this new ally in New York State, we may also be able to rack up a very major victory in New York, as we just have in Connecticut. All of you who are interested yes, Jack, you're right, South Carolina has come a long way, just a wonderful accomplishment. I want to mention, if any of you are working on legislation or plan to in the future, I've been learning in the last 2 years that you should be open to partnering with some of these other organizations in addition to the usual ones, the State Medical Society and other organizations, which we appreciate very greatly. But as I just mentioned, in New York, this Community Healthcare Association came out of the woodwork and is taking a leadership role in trying to get a bill introduced into the New York legislature. So keep your eyes open if you have organizations that may not have been prominent in your radar in the past that might be willing to help you with legislation or a change in the rule, whether it be of the Board of Medical Examiners or some other board. Also, the Maryland story is very interesting. We were able to get legislation enacted in Maryland in 2021. And the prime mover in that effort was an organization of the nurse practitioners of Maryland, known as the Nurse Practitioner Association of Maryland, or NPAM. Even though we sometimes get resistance from nursing societies in the state, occasionally we will get strong support from a nursing organization. And in Maryland, the idea of introducing legislation really originated from this Nurse Practitioners Association of Maryland. The problem there was also that there was ambiguity in the Nurse Practice Act of Maryland and the regulations of the Maryland Board of Nursing, whether NPs primarily, but really any advanced practice registered nurses, had the authority under the Maryland Nurse Practice Act and the regulations of the Maryland Board of Nursing for advanced practice registered nurses to delegate injections to unlicensed professionals such as medical assistants. And the testimony that these nurse practitioners gave in support of the bill that did pass was really glowing in terms of the importance of medical assistants helping them out and being available to be delegated injections. So keep in mind that within nursing, we're seeing more support from organizations other than the State Nursing Association and the State Board of Nursing. But in Maryland, because of the efforts of this nurse practitioner organization, we actually were able to put together a bill that was supported by the Maryland Board of Nursing and by the Maryland Nursing Association, primarily because of the efforts of this nurse practitioner group in Maryland. So keep that in mind and keep your eyes open for new allies that we may not have thought of in the past. There's some other very good news moving away from the legislative and right to practice realm to the association realm, and that is that there is a new Kansas Society of Medical Assistants that is in the process of organizing and affiliating with the AAMA as a state constituent society. Some of you may know the history, and that Kansas was one of the prime movers back in the 1950s in getting the AAMA organized. And ironically, and unfortunately, perhaps even tragically, the Kansas Society disbanded, I think about 12 or 15 years ago. So one of our founding state societies was no longer in existence. This group is, I think, very motivated. I help them with their bylaws. The bylaws have been submitted to the AAMA Bylaws Committee, and the bylaws do say that the AAMA Board of Trustees has to approve the bylaws of any new constituent state society. And these folks in Kansas are hoping that they can become a recognized state society and actually be represented at the annual conference in Myrtle Beach in October. And I think they're well on the way to that. And I mention this not just to share the good news, but also to mention to all of you, if you know some members who want to form a new state society, perhaps they live near the border of your own state society and they come to your meetings, but they really want to organize a state society in their state, please encourage them to contact me, and I can help them with the bylaws process, which really is the first step, and then we can move from there. Because currently, I think we have state societies in 41 out of the 51 American jurisdictions. That's including the District of Columbia. We don't have a society there, but think about asking some people, some members you may have come to know in the recent years that come to your state society, because there's no state society that's officially recognized in Vermont or Rhode Island or Louisiana or Wyoming, etc. I think that could be a really good opportunity to grow the AAMA with new state societies. And of course, the membership potential there is tremendous as well. So if Deborah White from South Carolina, you're welcome, Deborah, happy to help with that. And thank you for the leadership role that you played in that, and Sandra Williams and many other leaders of the South Carolina Society. So keep that in mind if you know some people in a neighboring state that might be interested in forming their own constituent society. We have resources and we can help them with that. As you may know from some of my previous reports in delegates packets of previous annual conferences, we have made a breakthrough in speaking at MGMA events. this was very gratifying because we had tried for 6 or 7 years to have a presence at the National MGMA meeting, and we were not successful. But once again, persistence and patience sometimes does great things. So I have been speaking at annual meetings of the MGMA, as well as some webinars that they've asked me to speak at. In fact, there were, in addition to my speaking at the annual conference of the MGMA last fall, I was asked to present 2 webinars, one in December and another one in February, essentially on the same subject, namely, what is the scope of practice of medical assistants? That's a hot topic, as you know, throughout the United States, and it's become even hotter because of the pandemic and the desire of licensed independent practitioners to delegate more tasks to medical assistants. So also from that, I've been asked to present at the Illinois MGMA and at the Arizona MGMA. And I mention this because some of you may have some involvement in your state MGMA. You may have exhibited there, or you may attend. I would just encourage you to mention that I would be available to speak at these state MGMA conferences. Also, I know that MGMA has regional conferences. In fact, I attended a Midwest regional MGMA meeting in Chicago, maybe 18 or 20 years ago. So if you feel that you have an opportunity or you have some connections, if you can speak to your state MGMA and your regional MGMA and indicate that I would be happy to present, and you can state the fact that I have presented at the national level 3 times in the last 12 months, actually in the last 6 months or so, 6 or 7 months, and that I would be available to speak about scope of practice for medical assistants under the laws of the state, or if it's a regional, of all the states in the region. Another point that's a rather a new idea, I was asked by a leader of the Michigan Society of Medical Assistants, Misty Atkins, some of you may know her, if I could prepare a 1-page document which explains the scope of practice for medical assistants under Michigan law. And this resulted from another speaking opportunity that I took advantage of about 2 months ago, a Michigan group. And that was a good opportunity to address the scope of practice in Michigan. Paula Purdy says, I believe the crisis in staffing and finding medical assistants has attributed to your win. AAMA has an excellent reputation. I would certainly agree that AAMA has an excellent reputation, thanks to all of you and others as well at the national level. And yes, I think the consciousness raising, to use an old term from the 70s, has really been great, and more people are knowledgeable about medical assistance. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But so Misty of Michigan asked me to do that 1-page handout, which I did write, and she thought it was great. And she asked me because she's going to be exhibiting at the state medical society meeting that Michigan has, the Michigan Medical Association, I think next month. And she thought it would be great if she could distribute a 1-page handout. So she's going to do that. And I just mention this because if any of you think that a 1-page handout would be helpful for your state society, please email me and let me know, and I would be happy to put one together. We do have on our website, as I think most of you are aware, information about each state's scope of practice and the laws of each state. And most of those include a letter from me, standard letter addressing scope of practice. However, I came to realize that having a different type of one-page document just addressing the scope of practice without getting into some of the specifics that I do in my standard letters might be a good idea. And it was also suggested again by Sandra Williams of South Carolina that we could then put that on the AAMA website as well. So on our website, we'd have my letter, which is in a slightly different tone than this handout would be, and then also this one-page document explaining what the scope of practice is for the state, in addition to other material that is available in the state scope of practice laws section of our website. So another possibility that came to mind after Sandra's suggestion of putting this on the AAMA website, each one-page scope of practice document, I think it would be a good idea if you could put that on your own state society website. That probably is better than my scope of practice letter. And then we can explode this even to a greater extent, Paula, and again, get the word out, I think, even more readily to others who might be interested in that. So I just mentioned that if you would find this helpful, a one-page scope document to distribute at the various meetings you attend, or again, you can use this in a lot of different ways, and you could post it on your website as well as the AAMA website. And I think this could open up a totally new awareness market for what medical assistants are able to do. I do want to mention, and you may have seen this in some of my reports, that medical assistants are being asked to work in very non-traditional settings for medical assistants. They have been asked to work as nursing assistants because of the shortage of nursing assistants. That may be lessening a little bit. I did read something recently that the nursing assistant shortage is lessening. There's a medical assisting shortage, as I indicated before, in and of itself. But the Colorado law actually says a new law, a new regulation of the Colorado Department of Licensing and Regulation, specifically that medical assistants by name are permitted to work in inpatient settings under the authority of a licensed provider, the usual MD, DO, advanced practice registered nurse, physician assistant in an inpatient setting. So that is unprecedented that a state law, in this case, a regulation in Colorado, mentions medical assistants by name and says that they may work under licensed provider authority in an inpatient setting. We have had laws in other states such as Utah, which in effect allows medical assistants to work as in a position that's similar to a pharmacy technician. It's a rather complicated technical law, but again, we've never seen anything like that. This is attesting to the value of medical assistants during this all hands on deck mentality. In the laws of Washington State, we actually had another regulation that allowed medical assistants in Washington State who have the MA-C credential, which stands for Medical Assistant Certified, and that's the highest level of medical assistants under Washington law, to permit MACs to take a fast track course and become certified nursing assistants and alleviate or lessen some of this nursing assistant shortage. Now, you may say to yourself, why would an MAC in Washington State want to work as a nursing assistant? But some may, and that opportunity is there. What is more significant is that the Washington Department of Health, who issued this regulation, this emergency regulation, sees the value of MACs. Another two questions here. Already a request from a state society. Yes, I will work on that. Absolutely. And the question from Paula, will you be sharing your presentation with this group? Paula, which presentation? Are you talking about the one I'm giving now or the one I will be giving?
Oh, this one, you've got so much information, I can't keep up.
Oh, okay. Well, remember it's being recorded, so that will help. Yes.
Oh, true. Yes.
And yes, certainly we can do with that whatever we wish, put that on the website, our website, or whatever. So I was talking about some of these, what I call non-traditional roles that have been springing up for medical assistants. And again, the point is not that all sorts of medical assistants suddenly want to work as pharmacy technicians or nursing assistants or work in inpatient settings in hospitals, whatever. It's the fact that the medical assisting profession and the medical assisting education and credentials are being recognized by state decision makers, not just in Connecticut and South Carolina, but even in these other states where we're seeing these executive branch regulations being issued. Also, some states are amending their regulations, or in some cases statutes, to allow medical assistants to administer vaccinations without direct on-site supervision of a licensed provider. Now, part of that is a result of the pandemic and the need for vaccinations, more vaccinations to get into more arms, as the saying has gone. But not only that, also the ability of medical assistants to administer influenza vaccines, still with supervision, but not personal on-site supervision that's available by telephone, by other electronic means, by text, whatever. So we are seeing that in other states as well. Yes, you're welcome, Kim Cooper. Happy to do this. And I know in in Wisconsin, you have a good scope of practice situation. But, I've been getting a lot of questions from Wisconsin just in the last month about medical assistants working under nurse practitioners and what is permitted and what is not permitted. And I've had to put together a special Wisconsin piece on medical assistants working under nurse practitioners. And I know you live in Minnesota, but you're affiliated with the Wisconsin Society, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, we're seeing a lot of questions emerging out of Wisconsin, and it's a good way for me to keep track of what's happening in the various states. Let's see. Yes, that's a good point, Mary Lou. Let me read your comment. With having state societies but national scope of practice issues, that may confuse some in the states to think that they would be able to do something and they can't. So yes, that's an advantage of having an official document just for the state of Wisconsin or Oregon or Michigan, whatever. Okay, yes, Cindy, this will be posted. Cindy Wilson from Iowa. So yes, I know I've been going rather quickly here, but when Deborah asked me to present, I really wanted to take advantage of this. Okay, I see, Kim. So you do live in Wisconsin, but you're in Minnesota babysitting your grandchildren. That's a great thing, very great thing. Okay, I think that's all I have, and I hope this has been helpful. Are there any further questions about this or any further questions about anything that has been presented by our leaders?
If anyone has any questions or a comment, just unmute and feel free to speak.
Okay, I see a request. Yes, Kim, I'll be happy to put together a Wisconsin document, which I think is really needed now. So yes, I will work on that. I'll work on an Oregon document, and we can move from Michigan to adding these other two states. But give me a few days if you would be kind enough.
Question for Monica.
Okay, go ahead.
Referencing the toolkits that they're going to be presenting at the BOT, when will they be available, or will there just be a notification and I should just watch the AAMA site?
Great question, Kim. Yeah, so as soon as everything is approved and put together, then that will be posted and there'll be notification coming out. So you'll have information to use for MAR Week. We will be formulating our actual target date from the marketing department, AAMA Marcom department at the BOT. So we want a session in June. We can have that information to you just as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. And one other question, several of you have mentioned that you can be emailed. What email are we referring to and where can I find those? Like if I wanted to email you, Monica, or everybody, because there's several people have said, oh, you could email me. And I'm thinking, email you how?
I can answer that. If you'll go on the AAMA website where the, I believe it's where the list of the national volunteer leaders are, I think by their names. If
It's
you
there?
click on those, it should be there. Yes.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments, words of wisdom? I know some of you have them out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys too. This means a lot to have this. A lot of us are struggling. Everything you've said today has hit the mark. The ideas are great to take these back. I'll be emailing my executive committee as I am the new president of Wisconsin. So we want to just get that out there because we're all struggling. So this is great. And I greatly appreciate these types of opportunities. I'm not able to attend the BOT just due to we're all crazy busy at work. So I just wanted to say again, thank you for putting this together. This means a lot. Thank you.
Great. We're glad it's helpful. And as I said, we are planning 2 more sessions. The next 2, we are planning to have hopefully a 1-hour CEU on leadership and for professionalism, 2 very dynamite and dynamic speakers that you won't want to miss because they are just truly great. I have had the opportunity to see each of them live in person. And so we're excited about that. And we will get those dates out to you. after the June BOT meeting where we confirm that, so that we can go through and give you plenty of time to be prepared for those dates. Anything else? Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Hey Deb, there is a comment asking about recording of the presentation. Would you touch on that, please?
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a problem. We did get the recording, but I think part is on Nikki's side, and then I clicked in when we got that fixed. So we're gonna have to see how we put that together. But once we can do that and make that available, we'll send out a notice to you guys or post it on the Facebook page or send an email to the state leaders where it will be and how you can view it. Just give us a couple of weeks to figure that out. It'll probably take us at the board meeting to get that. Okay. Well, we definitely appreciate your time. We know when the sun's shining, it's hard to decide what you're going to do, but we hope this has been very helpful and we appreciate you being with us. And I think we're ending on time, so that's always a good thing. And we will let you know about the next one, okay? Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Deb, did you need any of us to stay on?
You're muted.
Any other questions?
Just if you
Okay.
need any of us to stay on.
I think we're good. Patty, did you have anything else? And as far as strategy team, I think we're good. So Tanya, thanks for coming and we'll talk to you later, okay? Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so we're down to 3.
Yeah, and we're still
Um,
recording.
Yeah.
Hang on.
A great meeting.